Special welcome to the channel, everyone. Today I am discussing the events of the first episode of Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. It is a story of society creating and enabling this so-called monster. One could argue that the true monster is the society this monster was built around. Anyway, I am here to warn you about the gruesome content and not safe for work topics in this video. There's also a trigger warning effective immediately because we discuss murder, rape, cutting people's limbs off, and obviously serial killer themes. Another trigger warning for everyone, this video also discusses homophobia and racism. I also must warn you about spoilers regarding the first episode of the Netflix show. With that all out of the way, which is a bunch, we can now move on to the show and start discussing this newly released series. I am Pablo and I welcome you to my channel. Welcome everyone, welcome to the channel. Now I'm having some issues here with the browser, but that doesn't matter. I will just do what I do without exactly showing you. You can see where you can find the article right here. Now I'm talking today about the Dahmer show on Netflix, and there's some news surrounding it, and I thought it was interesting. Now, the show opens up with I really like how the show opens up with the neighbor kind of just wondering about those wiring noises that she is hearing from her neighbor. And the building and the set, it's kind of very brownish, dark setting. I don't find that building looks kind of cozy. It all looks really unpleasant and kind of like a bit like a dump, if you pardon the language. And so I was not familiar with this case. This is I'm a bit too young to remember any of this, although apparently he was alive in 91 and he's kept murdering people. That's something that I don't understand, but apparently I do understand, because you can see it in the show. You can see that people's concern about whatever this person is doing in his apartment are being minimized and not taken seriously by the authorities. And we see this all too much in society, even nowadays. I think for those of you who don't know, Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer. Now I said that these things keep happening because they do. People disappear and there's often not much media attention, especially with people of color or people from the LGBTQ community. So it's kind of sad seeing it and thinking, well, this was a long time ago. And at the same time, the society suffers from so many issues regarding these topics, particularly with the minorities in question. So, but the show it starts immediately. There is the build-up starts right from the get-go. There are no title cards. I was expecting to see maybe the first murder in the first 10 minutes or something. But the thing is, in this case, since it's a real based on true crimes and a real person, it was very unsettling to see this gentleman, Tracy. I mean, seeing him being picked up by Jeffrey in a club or in a bar, there are men there, and they're all kind of like flirting a little bit, and they know Jeffrey. They know him. He's been buying them drinks a couple of times in the past. So I find that really fascinating that he was just in plain sight, and people did think he was weird, and he wouldn't usually take people home, but I guess he wouldn't do it that often because he was still dissolving another body in his apartment. And that's another thing that I really found was very impactful, because you see the apartment, and there were several occasions where I was thinking, wait a minute, did I just see what I saw? Is that a huge bloodstain on the bed? Is that a barrel in the corner of the room? Are those tools? It's all, you can sometimes see it and then you can't see it because it's blurry, and the camera is focusing on the characters. But that's very scary. The entire first hour was terrifying. Especially if you've ever had the fear of being, picked up by someone who might possibly murder you. Like, you don't really know that for sure, right? Like, if you're being picked up in the bar by someone and you choose to go back to a stranger's place, there's a little risk there, I think, right? I mean, and I think people in the LGBTQ community discuss this. They like, yeah, we know that there are people who are potentially dangerous. So there's a lot of this show is really grounded in reality. You can tell now. So they're in the bar, and he's just buying everyone drinks. So Tracy is one of the dudes in the bar, and he's just completely innocent. He seems completely innocent. He seems, just going with Jeff with the best intentions, really. One would say, I guess. And Jeff is like, I do pictures, I can take pictures of you, and that was also quite creepy. What really, when I say this show isn't fucking around, is you see Tracy get in to the apartment with Jeff, and yeah, let's just say they're not vibing maybe the way you naturally should vibe with someone. So Jeff is closing the door, and he's locking the door. He's got a bunch of locks, and Tracy is taking a few steps towards inside the apartment, and he is immediately being vocal about a stench, a smell, that he's like, what's that smell? And so Jeff is constantly talking something about, oh, my family sent me some pork chops, and I like pork chops, and it got bad, and the freezer is broken, and yada yada, which is the same thing that he would tell his neighbor, who has been concerned about the smell for quite some time. So really creepy. And so, I mean, imagine you're going to a stranger's place, and suddenly there's a stench, and the stranger's locking the door behind you. Like, whoa, that is just intense moments. And in my brain, I'm constantly just thinking, what would I do to survive this? Like, first it's the smell, then it's like, no, please don't go, I'll make you a beer. Then his beer is all foamy. And he's like, what's that in my beer? And he's like, oh, it's just probably some soap from the sink. And it's just like, and I'm in my brain, I'm like, oh God, he's gonna kill him. He's gonna kill him. So very unpleasant to watch. He very soon starts threatening Tracy with a weapon, basically like a very long knife. Might be a machete. I'm not sure. But it gets ugly fast. Like there's a struggle, and he's saying, and Jeffrey's actually overpowering Tracy, so Tracy can't really do much. So he's saying, if you stay and we do what we said we would do a bunch of pictures, I will pay you, and then you will leave. And all the actors did a great job in this first hour, but the actor, the gentleman playing Tracy, my God, there is a scene where you can just see how terrified he is, and he's probably thinking, I'm gonna die. That's what I thought when I saw that face, and it's kind of like very, very intense. Now, the first hour of the Netflix show ends on a positive note. Tracy manages to run out of the apartment. Then he jumps in front of a police car, and he has handcuffs that Jeffrey put on him in order to trap him. There's so many things that these types of people, these psychopaths, I mean, I don't know if Jeffrey Dahmer was a psychopath, but I know he wasn't well, because from what that first hour, the way he's introduced, he is a quite clear danger and a threat to the people around him. You can see in the show that there were black people missing, black boys. I say boys because they're young men, because you're so young, and they were so young when they were killed. And that is just really, really scary. So thankfully, the cops were smart enough to help Tracy and go towards Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment. They knocked on his door, and the police is confronting Jeff and saying, well, this gentleman here is saying that you tried to kill him. Why are there handcuffs on his hands? And he's like, we are gay. We do gay stuff. We were fooling around. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you've gotten this far, you watched half of my video, so I'm here to say thank you so much. If you enjoy this content, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. It really helps the channel a lot. I know everybody says this and it's kind of like, stop saying this, but it is the truth. It helps the channel and it helps me make this content if you subscribe and if you interact and hit that like button and subscribe, etc. So if you do, thank you so much. If you would like to help the channel in other ways, you can stream my new single on Spotify, Deezer, Apple Music, everywhere, really. It is called Did You Know Bruno Caro Remix, and it is out now, and that's why we're celebrating with a big ass show about the Jeffrey Dahmer show. Thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the video. We are gay. We do gay stuff. We were fooling around. He even said it like he was not bothered by the situation. Not too much. He was maybe a bit nervous. I do think you can be a psychopath. You can be, I mean, he can be dissolving someone in acid. In that moment, he's not going to think about the consequences of his actions. He's going to start thinking about it when the police is in front of his door asking questions. And so the police asked, "Do you mind if we come in?" And he said, "I don't mind. Come inside." And I thought, well, that was a strange decision, right? If it smells bad. Anyway, just a few steps in, they're smelling the smell. And the police, thankfully, are acting like the police should act and are finding the situation to be a potential crime scene. And so when they started seeing the blood on the oh no, what was it, the blood on the mattress, that was, I mean, that was a red flag for the police, right? But they opened a drawer and saw Polaroids, and you can see the first Polaroid, and it's just a man posing what appears to be naked, and then you see that he's looking through other pictures, and then it just gets more gruesome and gruesome, and they're just already chopped off limbs in the bodies, and it was very grisly and very dark and very violent. Now, it was extremely disturbing. And like I said, it's actually a terrifying first hour of TV, especially if you have the background knowledge of knowing that we have systems that fail the victims because police minimizes whatever is happening and don't take it seriously. And that's one way how people die, due to misaction, and just they don't care. But again, the police needs to be trained well, empathically, morally, which isn't always the case, obviously. So anyway, in all of the ways this was unsettling. It was a well done pilot, if I can call it that. It's an impressive shots, very grisly, there's a lot of psychological horror from the sounds you hear, the smells you can't smell, but the smells you think about when you're watching the things that are unfolding. Yes, I mean, I think that was a quite strong start to a show. I would rate it a 9 out of 10. From production value, acting, sound design, music, tension, impact. If I were to see this show the first hour and would have nothing to say about it, then it wouldn't have left much of a big impact. And it seems like this show is leaving a big impact on the interwebs. The Hollywood Reporter reports Netflix removes LGBTQ tag from Dahmer series after viewers protest. The tag was one of the several categories initially used to categorize the limited series about the serial killer from Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan, along with labels like dark, horror, and vintage crime. Viewers noticed and raised objections online. Anyone else thinks it's pretty gross of Netflix to list Dahmer under LGBTQ, especially when the true crime tag would have worked? Read one representative tweet. A well-viewed TikTok video expressed a similar sentiment, noting that the show is not the representation we're looking for. Netflix subsequently removed the category tag. The Hollywood Reporter has asked Netflix for comment. Dahmer was gay, as were a number of his victims, but Netflix typically uses the LGBT tags for titles that reflect more rounded experience in the LGBTQ community. Among them, uncoupled, sex education, and Heartstopper. As of Wednesday afternoon, Monster was listed under crime, ominous, psychological, and horror. The series has also been criticized by a survivor of one of the victims in an essay for Insider. Rita Isbell, the sister of Errol Lindsay, whom Dahmer murdered in 1991, wrote that it bothered me to see her victim impact statement from the killer's 92 trial dramatized in the show. I could even understand if they gave some of the money to the victims. Children, the victims have children and grandchildren, Isbell wrote. If the show benefited them in some way, it wouldn't feel so harsh and careless. It's sad that they're just making money off of this tragedy. That's just greed. Dahmer, Monster, was Netflix's most popular series for the week of September 19 to 25. It debuted on September 21. The streamer said its subscribers worldwide spent more than 196 million hours watching the show during its premiere week. Okay. Now, this is something, if I may comment on this, this is why I kind of wanted to make this video. Like, I don't know what some people out there on the internet think, but there are two things about this drama, about this LGBTQ tag. Now, I disagree with the backlash because we have many victims of LGBTQ being represented here. The families and victims of murder victims are also the victims of these murders. And the victims who were LGBTQ, they suffered under the hands of this monster. Now, I want to make it clear that I hope we all understand that there is no C in LGBTQ+. Dahmer was a cannibal, and he liked to eat his victims. Now, some people out there are saying that Jeffrey Dahmer is an LGBTQ individual. I think that is wrong. I think he is a cannibal and a psychopath and a killer. And I can tell you that most LGBTQ people aren't cannibals or killers or that bad people, even when they have, and even when they suffer from mental illness. And they suffer a lot from mental illness because of a lot of straight people bully them and abuse them and rape them and worse. And the entire system is just a little bit rigged against minorities. I have come to understand that. I try not to get too worked up about that. But that's something that doesn't always work for me. Anyway, if we're looking at this from a more empathic side, people who say something like this individual over here that said, this is not the representation we're looking for. Yes, obviously, it is not the representation we're looking for. But again, this is, I think, is being misrepresented. The tag should be seen as a tag for the victims of Jeffrey Dahmer, not Jeffrey Dahmer himself. Jeffrey Dahmer did not love gay people or LGBTQ people. We didn't even have the LGBTQ name back then, right? He is not part of the LGBTQ community. He might have urges, but the fact that he's eating people against their will. Now, there are other situations where people get eaten because they wish to be eaten. This is a different situation. This is a guy who will just first trap you in his stinky apartment, then chop you into little pieces and then eat you. Okay, that is not an LGBTQ practice. People are writing and reacting as if this individual, this killer, somehow could represent LGBTQ people. And I'm sorry, but there's one thing that bothers me. It is not the representation we're looking for. Okay. See, I think this is not our story. If you are part of the LGBTQ community, this is not exactly your story unless it affected you personally. Because again, we are talking in this show about people who went through this, who survived this, and who still have to deal with the repercussions of what this monster did. Yes, I think um, it's very simple. If your mind is telling you eat people, then you do not love these people. You love yourself and those sick urges that you have because you do not care about the consequences of those actions. Now, obviously, Jeffrey Dahmer must have had some kind of psychological cocktail in his head because we have a little bit of psychopathy because he's killing people, and that's not really normal. And then I bet we have some narcissism in it because he did some gaslighting. He tried to gaslight the police by saying we did gay stuff. And another thing, when narcissists use people, yeah, uh, Jeffrey Dahmer ate people, and he thought that these people, just from what I'm seeing, just as an empath, really, I'm an empathic person, and I just see these things. I see how someone acts, what someone says, and I can immediately tell you if these things that this person says are, well, what kind of intentions are we dealing here with? Now, Jeffrey Dahmer saw gay men, and I would say he was aroused by them, and yes, he maybe wanted to have sex with them, but using human beings as literal snacks just shows to me that there is a narcissism here, or there's narcissistic elements here, because people, as a narcissist, you will always want to find functions in the people around you. You want to have a reason to want to be with someone. Now, there are some people, some narcissistic people who say things like, well, unattractive people can die because they don't they don't pleasure my eyes the way I want them to pleasure my eyes. So again, you want a optical arousal. You want to see something that is pleasant to your eyes and to your eyes only. Anything else that is not pleasant to you can, in some cases, just narcissists will even say, well, unattractive people can die because they're that hateful and they're just, and it's always just me, me, me. The entire world just revolves around themselves and their desires and their needs. And that's why I thought it was so fascinating in this first episode. You see a moment where Jeffrey Dahmer is, why does everyone want to leave me? And I swear to God, that is one of those narcissistic things where people can, these narcissists can even kill someone and they will still not understand that they just actually killed someone. He is still the victim because someone is leaving. That's what he's thinking. So there's just a lot of crazy in that just 1 hour, and I find it really unsettling. But that's my take from all of this. Now we could argue that a system of oppression and homophobia has created an individual who hates himself and hates other homosexuals. That's why he kills them. This has nothing to do with love. Someone who kills the people who he claims to love is not a lover. He's still a killer. And let's not forget that, right? Because it's some people just don't, feels like some people in this discussion on the internet, they just don't see the basics, and I'm just trying to point out what is very important here. If you kill another man and you want to eat him, you don't love him. You love the urge that makes you want to kill him, right? This was an individual, and I think in terms of LGBTQ politics and the community, I think we should discuss why did this happen? How was it not prevented sooner? Where does the where does it come from that this random person just suddenly starts killing people? I think it is the homophobia that is presented in our society and normalized and very often internalized that lead to these horrific things. Now, if we would choose to talk to people and to educate them about what the LGBTQ community is and what the people are, what they do, what they stand for, what it means, what what the biology means behind it, then we would have a much safer society. And safety, LGBTQ members need the safety, I think, in society because they are very much in danger of certain individuals who have the internalized homophobia. That is just my 2 cents on the issue. And I will just get back to what I was talking about just a few moments ago. Yes, you want to be represented. This isn't about you. This particular case isn't about you. It's about the people who died and the people who survived and the people who survived from these repercussions from these terrible actions of this person. So I think it's 2022 and people just like making things about themselves. I don't think that we can claim every story or how every story should be sold to the public. Um, just on an empathic level. If we really want to have a conversation about the insensitive aspect of this show, then I would much rather talk about the concerns of the people who have suffered from this, um, like Miss Isbell, who is concerned about the greed behind this. And it is true that they will make a lot of money from true crime shows, and actually the people living through the trauma um, get very little compensation, because we've had some true crime shows in our family, and this is why I think stories like this, it hits different over here. And there was one particular scene that I can say one of my Jeffrey Dahmer reminds me of a family member of mine who would get violent and make threats and break things. And when the police would get called, they would arrive and ask the violent person, "Do you know anything about these complaints that we're getting?" Now, the psycho in my family would say, "What? Complaints? I know nothing about such things. Can you explain? Can I help? Can I assist? What is the problem?" All the while, the abused person is upstairs, hoping that the police will do the right thing. But what does the police do? Ah, ha, ha. Oh, you're right. It's just an old woman. Oh, she's just a little bit hysterical. Oh, I see. She's a bit nervous. Maybe it's those days of the month again. Maybe she's not feeling herself. Maybe they're hormones. Who knows? Yeah, the system fails, and it fails a lot. And it not just fails with Jeffrey Dahmer's victims and their neighbors trying to alarm the authorities. People right now being abused are not being protected by people, by the authorities, by the governments that swear to protect you. But no, it's just, it seems like governments think that helping out is a bit too much work. That's why, I can't imagine why police wouldn't do their work if it's not incompetence or just a lack of interest. This is kind of an awkward video. Please forgive me. But I think I've said all that I had to say about this. And I hope you've all enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like, leave a subscribe, or get that subscribe ticket. It's for free. It won't cost you much. And I will see you soon with topics about all different kinds of things. Have you seen Dahmer Monster on Netflix? What did you think? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what you think about all these unnecessary discussions on the internet. Thank you all. Have a wonderful weekend. See you soon, everyone. Goodbye.